Today we are interviewing Lisa Owusu, founder and CEO of Charlton and Lola. A lawyer on the fast track up, Lisa decided to quit her job with no clue as to what to pursue or what she wanted to do next. 6 years later, Lisa owns a store on 47th Street in New York's Diamond District as she runs her custom jewelry design store. Noah sat down with Lisa to hear more about her inspiring journey. I guess let's start from the beginning. How did you get into jewelry?
How did I get into jewelry? That is a very good question. I went to law school, and something didn't feel right. I was working at a firm I think I was there for 5 years, 6 years. I had a strong urge to quit. I went to Ghana. No, I quit. Went to Ghana for 2 weeks. It was just like in my hometown. No, back it up. You want to start this again?
It's okay, just
Okay.
just talk. Don't worry.
The year before I quit, I went to Ghana. My sister was a World Cup year. I bought some vintage beads from Ghana. I actually have them somewhere. And I was thinking of a way to wear it that's not as heavy and traditional, like the way our moms wear it. So I came back to New York and I took a beading class and a wire wrapping class. I really enjoyed it, and I started making like bead bracelets for friends and selling them on Etsy. But it still wasn't enough. I wanted to work with gold and metals. So I was looking for a class to take those kind of lessons. Finally, I quit my job in New York. I go to Ghana for 2 weeks. While I'm there, I go to my hometown, Fiji, which I haven't been to since I was 8. There, they're like going through this gold boom. I'm in the presence of all this like mining and people melting gold and making all this stuff. And I don't know, I felt like by osmosis, I was taking it all in. I come back to New York and I'm like, yeah, I'm taking metalsmithing classes. So at that point, I came back with no plan. So I decided to be like a contract attorney. And I was studying jewelry making at night. I took my first class, I loved it, and just kept going. I never looked back. That was like 5 years ago.
What made you quit your job? What was it? Was it that you got to a point where you said enough is enough? I'm tired of doing this corporate 9 to 5, or was it that you decided I want to go into jewelry making? That's what I want.
No, I didn't know why when I quit.
Okay.
I just felt this unease, and I was just never really comfortable just being a lawyer.
Okay.
And at that point, I worked at a firm that worked with hedge funds.
Okay.
It was a great experience, but it didn't feel like my people. Two, I knew I didn't want to be, I never aspired to be a partner. And I knew the lifestyle wouldn't work with me as a woman. And I didn't want to play the politics as a black person. So I just knew I was never going to be a partner. And I wasn't willing to work the hours to make that. So I knew that wasn't my calling, but I couldn't figure it out. Like, all my friends were doing the same thing, but I felt this restlessness, and I wasn't being successful, so it just didn't feel right.
Was that when you kind of discovered the universe, or?
So when I came back from Ghana after feeding, I was like, let me start taking yoga again. I used to take yoga, and then I stopped when I moved to New York. And so I was also working with my friend Josh, and I was doing business consulting. So I had my whole schedule, I was working from home. So I had time to start taking yoga again. So I would go to class twice a week. And my teacher, Jeffrey, just changed my life. But yeah, the yoga opened the door to the whole spiritual essence of things. And then I just sort of followed the cookie trails. One led to the other. Once I found the studio and I took the first class, everything made sense after that.
Okay. What has the journey been like so far?
Amazing, but very real.
Okay.
In the sense that you have to do the work. There's no room for not wanting to do the work. At one point, I was working 60 hours as a contract attorney during the day, and I still would have to make it to studio, make jewelry for clients. So it's not even in Slack. The production level has to be high. But I find it exhilarating. I don't know if it's because I like challenges, but it's the hardness of things makes life more interesting. So in that sense, it pushed me.
Okay.
And then at the same time, I think the beauty of this experience was like finding a teacher and a mentor and appreciating that there's certain people in life that can help you elevate or become bigger than you thought you were.
Okay. How did you find your mentor? How was that's
Again, like, it's bizarre because I have this vague memory, like a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago when I was at the firm, I looked up a jewelry studio and I printed the sheet out and it was like the Lola jewelry studio. And after I quit, I was looking for jewelry school again and the same thing popped up. It's funny, but if you look for jewelry schools in New York, David's studio always pops up. But it's a really small, quaint jewelry making experience. So it's almost like a magical place. But once I started there, my first teacher worked at David Webb. His name was Dylan. And I created this like insane ring that didn't make sense. But he just never said you couldn't do it. He just let me do it. And I did it like 3 times. And it just worked. And then my following teacher was David. Then my next teacher was Trico. But David ended up being like the perfect mentor in the sense that like you can do it. There's nothing you can't create. And then like taking my intuition and giving it a little nudge that allowed me to believe in creativity. Because I tell a lot of people, for someone like me, once you're like a lawyer, you're more logical.
mm-hmm.
The idea of opening up and being a creative is very daunting. So I had like the yoga, the jewelry making, and David all happening at the same time allowed me to use intuition to make stuff. Because I mean, what's the idea of what's beautiful, what's valuable? I mean, it's objective.
Yeah.
But I have to believe my beautiful is beautiful for everybody else, and how to like really have the confidence to believe that on the creative side it's an interesting experience.
Do you remember your first sale?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was the O-ring. It's the first ring I made.
Okay.
The first one was my friend bought it for his sister. I made it with it was a silver ring with pearls, emeralds. Yeah, pearls and emeralds on it. I did it again with iolite and pearls. I did it twice and I made another version for myself. So that was my first sale.
What was that feeling like?
It's very cool. But yeah, then I wasn't sure because it was still like, are my friends buying it because it's me or because it's really that beautiful?
Okay.
But to this day, people still like want me to reproduce it, and I just haven't made it again.
So when was that first moment when you felt like, yes, I can do this? Like I feel validated. Someone like I know that I can do this. So I belong.
That first ring.
That first ring.
Definitely. The amount of work, precision. I'll find a picture of it for you.
Okay.
But the amount of detail on it confirmed that I can do this for long periods of time, be focused on doing it, and enjoy it, and it doesn't feel like unnecessary labor.
Okay.
Which I appreciate now in jewelry making. The finest details take hours to make. Like, just putting a loop and a chain together can take 30 minutes. So you actually have to enjoy the finest details of everything. Like, I'm always wearing magnifying glasses. Everything is so tiny. But once I enjoyed that, like, there was no not doing it. So then day work became a way to pay to go to school again. Like, I think I've been going to studio every week for 5 years now. I don't think I've missed, unless I've traveled, maybe once or twice a year, I've never missed a class. Like, everything else got eliminated.
Okay.
Like, I didn't need to go out that much. I didn't need to socialize that much. Like, I had to go to class. And I think that's when I knew.
That was, okay.
Like, there's just something special about this. And I want to keep doing it.
So when was Charlton and Lola born?
So when I was making the beads, it was Beads by Lola.
Okay.
And I knew that wasn't the name of the company either. I feel like it was 3 years ago. So I was working at studio with a friend called Kathy. We worked next to each other for about 2 years. And one night she was making this necklace, and she was like, I need 3 diamonds on it. 3 diamonds or 5 diamonds. And I asked her, why do you need 3 or 5 diamonds? And she's like, because those are sacred numbers. I was like, what does that mean? And she's like, oh, they're just special numbers. I'm a psychic. I'm like, what is that? She's like, like a psychic. I was like, I don't really know what you people do. So we're rolling stuff together and all this stuff. And then we just start talking. And she starts sort of giving me like a reading or something. So it was just like, wow. But then every once in a while, we'll meet together at the end of every year. And we'll have a cup of tea. She reads like coffee cups. And she was like, the name of your business is not Beats by Lola. It starts with a CH. It's like Charlie, like something like that. I call my sister, and I'm like, Kathy says the name is like CH, something with CH. And I'm thinking about it, we're like Charlie, Charles. And I'm like, oh, I live on Charlton Street. And then it all fell together. Because you know how like jewelry brands are always like, John Lewis, New York City, fine jewelry, New York City. Like I never wanted an obvious name like that, like Lisa Owusu, New York City, fine jewelry. So Charlton made sense because most people who don't know New York don't know there's a street called Charlton, and it opens up a conversation about like a quaint little part of New York. It's very historic. It gives me a chance to like, it's like an ode to New York City, and everything started on Charlton Street. I lived on Charlton Street when this whole thing began. So Charlton is a nice ode to New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to when you were balancing your work life and learning how to do the stuff, how did you manage it? How were you able to balance the two? I know you said you cut out going out and things like that, but how did you manage the time and also like worrying about things like bills and all those things? What was that like, that transition and just
it was good. I mean, it was very intense. I had a very intense job, but it paid very well.
Okay.
So I was very lucky for that. So I would just like make sure like I structured my days where I had nights for jewelry making. And if not, I would go back to work like a little bit after. I would work from home. I can be, I think my mother would say a little too intense about working, but I can be very focused about just doing the work when it's necessary. I think in that sense, I have a good ability to handle different tasks and a lot at the same time. And I think if you're around me, you notice that too. I want to do this, I can do a little bit of that. I can like use my brain here. I'm on Instagram. I want to work with my hands. I want to talk to people. I want to be on the phone. So I find it more interesting. I find life more like full if I'm doing more. But currently, I'm in the process of learning how to balance work and a home life, which has been challenging.
Is there ever a way to balance the two?
I'm trying. I'm trying to understand how to do it.
Okay.
In the sense, like, yeah, how do you make time for family and friends and still do what you love?
Well, what you love becomes life, I think. But anyway,
I think you're gonna figure it out too.
That is.
Because at some point, like, friends get older, they have children. You know, it's like I think some children, when I started, they were 0, and now they're like 3 or 5. But they know me, but I haven't seen them in 5 years.
Yeah.
What?
I said, yeah.
Yeah, right? But it's like, but I hang out with them now, and they're so wonderful, and it's like, I'm happy to have them in my life. Like my brothers and my sister are getting married, there's going to be kids, I want to be part of their life, but I like what I do. But I'm hoping the beauty of all this is like being my own boss, having my own setup. I will have the freedom to, you know, like they could come here, they could stay with me, they could work here, they could be part of the workshop, they could see how people make like things happen. And I think that was the other thing with like law. The more I saw it, the more I realized I would never have the kind of control I needed in my life.
Okay.
And it wasn't worth it for me to fight that hard for those kind of things, because I felt like I wouldn't have the kind of life I wanted. The firm would dictate. That kind of world dictates what you do, not the other way around.
Yeah. How old is Charlton and Lola now?
Which one?
Charlton and Lola.
How's it doing?
How old is it?
This is the 6th year.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's say after 5 years, if your last 5 years, you're good to go. So.
I hope so. Mashallah.
What would you say has been, or what high and low have stood out to you in your 6 years of operations?
The high of it could actually be moving into this office space.
Okay.
That is like, as crazy as it looks, it's like real manifestation. It's validation. It's an affirmation of like the putting the work in, and that I like putting in my best and striving for higher qualities. This is what it looks like. This is where it takes you. Because I'm a very finicky person, but I love studying things. And if I was gonna do this, I wanted to be the best kind of jeweler I could be. There is no shortcuts. Like I needed to know how to do things by hand. Like I'm just like one of those people. And for this to happen, and for the industry and 47th Street to respect my work and take me in, like that, I needed that. It wouldn't be enough to just be a jewelry designer.
What is 47th Street?
The Diamond District.
Okay.
Yes.
So your office is in the Diamond District?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was in the Diamond District. As crazy as this was. So that's the kind of validation, like, oh shit, I could do this in like 6 years. Like you can work that hard and things can happen. Like anything is, I feel like anything is possible from now.
Yeah.
The harder parts of it, like just really really hard. Now it's also hard because I have to figure out how to build a brand, how to delegate, how to structure it. But I guess it's not a low point, it's just a challenge. And I feel like the low points would be like people not understanding what you're doing.
Okay, that's interesting. So I talked to the Iconic guys today, and their low point was in terms of they're used to every 2 weeks getting a paycheck. But
that is true too.
But now it's like, okay, fine, you have to actually actively go out and look for that paycheck and get it.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you don't see that as like, it's for you. It's like, no, it's people not understanding what you do.
That's a low point. But once you're like the other hustlers I roll with, like we all understand like the poverty of the dreaming and coming out of the box or coming out of the mainstream. Like you get it. Like, but you feel so alive. It's like you just learn how to hunt and like to kill on your own, and it's not like just somebody serves you a meal. And once you taste it, and I like even like tasting my first sale that's over $5,000, it's like shit, I can do this myself. Like if I could repeat it again and again, like why do I need a paycheck? I just gotta figure out how to consistently do this.
Yeah.
But whatever, once somebody confirmed to me like, oh, I'll pay you $5,000, $10,000 to do something, I know that I'm like, okay, I can make my own magic, right? So that part, I think I just have to figure out where the money is, so it doesn't freak me out as much as like, do people get what I'm doing and not get what I'm doing? Because once I figure out that you get it, I just have to present it to you the right way.
Yeah. Coming from a background or a place where your parents kind of dictate what you're doing and where you're going to, and you're the oldest, right?
No,
second. Being well, usually, generally, the oldest girl, like the oldest usually have to have the respectable.
Yeah.
How was that? Was that an issue? Was there an awkward conversation? How was that?
It was interesting. I think when I quit the law job, my dad took it. Didn't take it well.
Okay.
He didn't understand it. But the good news is, it's funny because my sister Nisi had already kind of like broken the chains before all of us.
Okay.
Because she decided to major in art history and she works in auctions. And I helped her transition to that because my parents thought she was going to do political science. And I was like, she doesn't even read newspapers. Like, how do you find political science? So once she had gone into that world, it's interesting because I quit and my brother quit his job around the same time. My brother used to be in finance and he too was also, something was off. So my dad was kind of freaked out that like, how are his kids going to feed themselves and all that stuff. And like, yeah, I didn't know, but he is now getting around to the idea of what I'm doing. My mother was open to, if it doesn't make you happy, figure it out. But I think they had a nice buffer because I was always doing contract attorney work. So then they're like, oh, okay, she still makes money. Maybe this is a hobby, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think last year was the first time I didn't do any law, and I did this full out. And that's like
How was last year?
rough,
Right.
but invigorating. It's like swimming the English Channel. You think you might drown every 2 seconds, but every time you like stay afloat a little longer, you're so like amazed at your ability to swim. But it's real, like. But thank God for all my. I have another entrepreneurial friend, and at least we could commiserate together because we just. She used to say this to me, but she was like, until you do it 100%, it's a hobby.
That's true.
You have no clue what's going on. And at the end of this year, I was like, holy shit, you weren't joking. Because, like, life is still happening. Like, your parents are having problems, like, with health and stuff. Like, your sister's getting married. And you still got to do all that, feed yourself, make stuff, build a website. But again, if you embrace it, it kind of is, like, very exhilarating. Like, it kind of reminds me of, like, those like, kind of movies, like Lord of the Rings or stuff like that, where then, like, you get it, like, oh, there's a challenge at every step,
Yeah.
but the more you pass through it, the more you, like, kind of earn the right to be a knight or a warrior. Like, you see, what, like, life as a journey, if you think of it that way, this is where you're, like, really building your worth.
Okay.
Like, if you can survive these things, like, your concept, because for me, every time I defeat fear, it cancels out that fear in itself that, oh, I can make money myself. Okay. Like, I don't have to be afraid of the idea that I only could work for somebody else. So it just liberates you each step. So as bigger as the challenges get, if I overcome it, the more empowered I feel.
Okay.
And then it's more awesome. Like, yeah, like, so this move, I mean, I have so many challenges now. I gotta pay rent here. I gotta pay rent at home. I gotta sell stuff. I gotta keep the lights on. I don't know how I'm doing it all yet. But once I figure it out,
Yeah.
like, I can build another company. Like, it's not as, like,
As daunting as
Yeah.
as it would be before.
I can help somebody else build a company.
Yeah. If you could talk to yourself 6 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my God. Life gets better. Like, you have no clue, and life gets better. But sometimes if you follow the energy, like, it's beyond your imagination. The possibilities could be beyond your imagination. Like, I couldn't have imagined this life 6 years ago. Impossible. Like, I just could not imagine a situation that would bring me onto 48th Street.
Okay. So, what is the vision or future for Charlton?
I'm very excited for it. Like, I would like to build a jewelry production company
Okay.
and make really high-end jewelry. I would like to further the idea of local craftsmanship in New York City. I would like to build, I think we have so many talented people in this industry that I would love to showcase their work, I'm very excited about that. Like, just showing all this, like, craftsmanship and technique and how things are made beautifully. Like, you forget, like, jewelry making has been made like this Egyptian times, and, like, people are just taking the time to master metals, rocks, crystals. Like, everything is natural. And just having the opportunity to learn that from craftsmen from all over the world is just, I think that alone makes every day awesome. Like, people are teaching me, like, there's no computer that's giving me that experience.
Yeah.
Like, I get to, like, work with my hands and create beautiful things.
What is your expertise? What are the things you do now? You do, I know, wedding stuff.
I do weddings, and I do private client work.
Okay.
I do jewelry production for other jewelry designers and other people who have, like, antique jewelry. I help them rethink it for modern times.
Okay.
So again, the beauty of most of my work is I've always liked the idea of co-creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't always have to be my singular vision, but if I worked with other people and we created synergy, it's just much more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Are you thinking of collaborating with anyone in Ghana soon?
found any good hands, after the challenge. I was like, do they know who I am? I would love to. I'm collaborating with any good name. No, that would be fascinating. I have a great client who's in the Congo, and she just comes up with these amazing projects based off her culture. But one of them is a ring inspired by a cloth. I guess it's called the Kuba cloth.
Okay.
Of her tribe from the Congo, and I'm gonna try and recreate it as a cuff ring. But I love stuff like that. Like clients that show up. She's half German, half Congolese, and she wanted a ring that was a cross that's on the forehead of a Congolese mask, but it needed to have a German element connected with the Congolese element. So it's we're having tourmaline, we're having pearls, we're having gold. But stuff like that to me is so interesting to play off and see where my creativity and that person's creativity connect.
How big of a role would you say your being African or African culture as inspires the work you do? Is it more of what you learned when you went to studio, or is there an infusion of your background and who you are in the work you do?
I find it interesting that when now I look back, and that trip to Fidim was also, that's where I actually saw the gold coming out of the ground. I saw it as a natural element in its purest form. I saw how the men take it out. I saw the labor in it. I saw the melting of it. I think that essence of it all resides in me. And just by being African, whatever I do just elevates the whole narrative for all of us, however it comes through. Because it is my reference point. I lived there for 17 years. I just can't put my finger on it all the time. But I think it's just that sense of, just probably my eye, my feel for things have to come from there. But I've never tried to how do you say it? Point, single it out. I just wanted it to always feel organic. But I do have a plan to make this awesome Ashanti inspired jewelry line at some point. It's gonna be amazing.
Why Ashanti? Because they gold?
Because they're some of the best gold craftsmen.
Okay.
And people don't realize the technique they were using to make gold back then. It could almost be lost. They have these amazing shapes. That stuff I like doing because I love history too. I like to go back and see how were people doing this at a time when there wasn't the torch and the flame and the this and that. I could do immaculate work with fine details, and it's just small fires and so yeah. Sometimes when I'm bigger, I would love to go to different tribes and see how people do stuff, and then let that infuse in me, and then come back to New York and work on that. That would be so amazing. Tuareg,
yeah,
those kind of people, North Africa, Ghana. I want to go, but next time I go back, I want to find where the jewelers are and see how they make stuff.
The jewelers, oh, the village jewelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that done? Not in my jewelry. I love you though. I got you. I wear a lot of it.
If you could give 3 pieces of advice to people in Ghana who are either trying to start a company or trying to make some money on the side, or thinking about making the leap but don't know where to start, or their parents are no, you shouldn't do it, you have to pay bills, or just trying to start, what would you tell them?
One, just really commit to it. Learn it. Just do the work. Sometimes I'm surprised how much the difference between the idea and the work of it. It's just gonna be hard work. There's just no way around anything you do, but just commit, make some room for it. So what? The first one is do the work. Whatever scares you the most, kind of face it and get through it. Because when you solve it, it opens up other things. It's almost doors open. So that voice that sometimes tells you, maybe not, maybe people won't like it, maybe you're down. Face it and work through it, because I think that's the real challenge. Because the more confidence you have, the more people are attracted to you in a weird way. if you let the fear in, then that cancels itself. Third piece of advice: have fun. Like, still laugh, be happy. Like the times I take it too seriously, like I feel like I energetically block myself. Things didn't move as fast. I couldn't be open to being creative about how to solve my problems. Um, yeah, so have fun with it. Like, don't. I know it's a dream, and I know it's a passion, and I know like sometimes it's like just overwhelms you, but also just like give it room to, like, don't let it break you down. Because it might play itself in ways that you also don't always expect. I thought I would only do fine jewelry at a certain point, but now I'm really attracted to just production, like other people's work. I don't let my ego dictate how the dream is going to be. Like, you have to be open to that part. It might not look exactly how you in your mind imagined it to be, but if you give it room, it could just be as fantastical. And lastly, African parents are tough, but they love us. But I think now, collectively, as a group, we're also interesting that I think now, I think they did that before because they were protective of us, but I think now they can see that we come in all kinds of shades and colors and dreams. I think they're getting there.
It's an interesting point. Now, for me, I know it's easier for me because I have 3 older sisters, and so one's a doctor, or 2 are doctors, and one is a financial analyst. So I'm free to do whatever I want, and it's like, okay, he's the youngest. If anything happens, it's fine.
Okay.
Right. For you, like you said, Steven is still in the finance sector, kind of. Yeah. They saw you're making money, so you're fine, even though you're doing this, right? You just got the this office space.
Yeah.
Bernice is doing her thing as well. Yeah. Wesley is the baby of the group, so it's like, so it's, I think for a certain group of us, it's easier to do it.
Okay.
Right, depending on circumstance. But I know there's a group of people who they're the breadwinners, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm making 1,000 CDs a month, right? Mm-hmm. Out of the 1,000 CDs I make, 800 goes towards bills. I have 200 CDs. If I could make 500 extra CDs, that would be great. But it's just they don't know where to start, or like, for example, how you set up, you just quit your job without even knowing what it was you were gonna do.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, the hardest part is, okay, fine. What is the idea? How do I find that idea? How do I find that one thing that I can do? Right.
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, okay, fine, it can be done, blah blah blah, but getting started is the hardest. I think one of the hardest things for
I swear to God, that day I was sitting, it was my review. My boss was telling me I was getting some 10% or something, and then he's like, "You don't look too happy," and I was like, "I'm giving my 2-week notice." I guess I had never done it before where I quit like that, so I was like, the whole time he's talking, Clara was on my face, but like I really had no clue what I was doing. All I figured out is I was getting a ticket to Ghana, and then I figured it out from there. So yes, it is stuff that somehow it can blow your chest out, but that's why you need faith, and that's what I say, and my friends say, entrepreneurship too is a highly spiritual exercise. Like, whatever roots you, grounds you, gives you faith, lifts you, bring that in, because that moves mountains. Because otherwise you're alone, fear is eating at you. So I don't know whatever gives you faith, you're going to have to tap into it. Because yes, there are times I am broke. Can't figure out how to pay rent. And like they say, that the Hail Mary move at the end. There's times I have to find the strength. Before I made money, I never had to ask anybody to help me. I had to ask people to help me and believe in my dream. And then you have to pay them back. Like, that's what I mean. It's not an ego exercise. Like, if you believe you're going to make it rich off the bat, you'll never have to ask for help. You'll never, poverty. Like, everything will work out. And it doesn't play out that way. And you think you're a failure, so you go back to your old ways. You weren't meant to do this. Because, you have to taste all that kind of, stuff to even get to the next level of the game. Like, right now, I'm trying to even, find the balls to start asking for real investment capital. But it's like, if I've never heard anybody tell me no, and I have to convince them yes, how am I going to go tell somebody to give me real money to build a company? You know what I'm saying?
One yes.
Yeah, but you know, like people are so afraid of hearing no.
Yeah, yeah.
And if no defines failure or success, and you hear no and it crushes your spirit, then you're already out of the games. Because I have a feeling I'm going to be hearing a lot of no's every now and a while. And I'm giving out no's too. Like, so I think, yeah, so on a, like a spiritual soul level, always have some kind of practice. If it's prayer, if it's yoga, if it's meditation, I don't know what it is. But yeah, because I think the first part of all this is like, your ego will get crushed, and you have to be okay with that. But it doesn't define you. Like, you're not your ego. Like, it's all a challenge, it's all an experience. And to be the best version of yourself, you have to be tested. Like, you just have to be. Like, otherwise, like, ego is just fake. Like, what is it based on if you've never, like, you've never hustled it? Like, what, like... When to even get this office, I had, like, 20 minutes to say yes. The offer was given to me, and I had 20 minutes to say yes and find $5,000 to pay for this space. I didn't know where I was getting it from, but I said yes. And I went outside, and I almost shit myself. I was like, I'm in here, and now I gotta renovate things. I gotta pay workers. But I just have to say yes, accept it as an experience. And to see, I mean, at least I'm here. Like,
Yeah.
Even if you boot me out now, it's like I still tasted it.
Yeah.
So the next place I can dream of has to be here, at this level, or the next level. Because I'm like, I've been in it once. Why not?
Yeah. No. I know another thing issue people have is when people ask them to do stuff, if they're not ready to do it, they say no.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting that you said yes before starting to worry about, okay, fine, where do I now find the money and all that?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will be like, okay, fine, I need someone to do X, Y, Z, and they'll be like, oh, I don't know how to do that, so they'll be like, no, right, turning down an opportunity. But if you say yes,
exactly,
and then you either go figure it out,
yes,
you either say, okay, fine, either I can learn how to do it, or I know someone to delegate it, let them do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's an interesting mindset difference between people who have started doing their own thing and who are entrepreneurs and those who are in the employee track. Then the employee track, it's like, okay, I don't know how to do this, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna leave it alone. Like it's this is what you're paying me for. This is what I'm gonna do.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Which is it's just an interesting point.
But I like what you said. I think it's also like a mindset. What it takes to be a great employee is not the same thing it takes to be the boss. Because one, you have to dream it, you have to build it, and make enough to pay people out of that dream. And right now, I respect all my jobs, past jobs, people that gave me a lot of money, because now I realize what it takes. You have to build something enough that it creates enough food to feed yourself and a whole bunch of people. That's like dreaming on such an epic level, like, high five. Like, I get it now. Like, I want to do that. Like, this is the next part of the puzzle that I would love to do. Can I make enough? Can I create enough abundance that there's surplus where I can feed others?
Other people, yeah.
But for me, in my mind, that's like, ooh, that's a game changer. Like, once you figure, that's like, how do those people figure that out? And that's where I'm at. Like, I'm gonna figure that out. Like, especially like when you make enough that you have like a lot.
Left,
and I know there's enough for everybody else. Like, you can pay the mailman, you can pay the secretary, you can pay like colleagues and workers. Like, it's like fascinating, and pull it off.
Yeah.
But then everybody shows up at work now and they're all salty too. Like, my job is too boring. I was like, you can have a seat and do your job. So I think that part of building a brand. So at some point I had to decide I wasn't just a jeweler. I wanted to try building a brand. So you're meeting me in the mix of like those two trying to come together. I know I'm a great jeweler, but I want a brand. How do I bring it together? Brand requires other people. It requires delegation now. It requires, like, other people get to do work off of me, and like we can all build a vision together.
Yeah.
And I think it could be fun. I mean, worst case scenario, I go back to half-time jewelry making,
Half-time.
half-time law practice. And I think, well, in fairness, that was kind of a buffer too for me because I was like, worst case scenario, at least I have the law degree. I could always
Always
go back.
practice, yeah.
I mean, even at the most basic level, I could. I guess in that sense, it doesn't hurt to have some kind of degree. I'm sorry. Like it does if you can. If not, but I seriously think like being African right now is so cool. Like it's one of the best times to be African. I think we're defining things, we're changing the game, we're creating trends. Like it's a great time to dream of whatever you want. I think on a global scale, we're so interesting. Like it's gonna be amazing. Like I feel like the next few years will be amazing for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we can network, we can build together. You can come to New York, you can do this on the screen. You can take the message back home. You can bring the message here. Yeah, and then when I go to Ghana too, like I'm bringing some of this there. Great time to be. It's a great time to be black in general. Like Beyonce said it.
The last words Beyonce said it.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Formation. Thank you.